should go without saying that this video has spoilers. You have been warned. So you defeated Heolostor, the Nightlord, then proceeded to the ending of Nightreign. But what does it all mean? Just who is the Nightlord? What is the Nightlord? Who is Heolostor? What is the meaning of these very ambiguous endings? How do they impact the Elden Ring story as we know it? All these questions are completely valid and ones I myself had when I first got the ending. But after an ungodly amount of nearly 40 hours, which is kind of embarrassing considering the game only came out a week ago, I believe I have the answers to these questions. A small percentage of the people that watch these videos are actually subscribed. If, and only if, you do enjoy the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribe as it greatly helps the channel. And it lets me know you're enjoying this style of content. Please friends, sit back, relax, grab some succulent, juicy, tender and sensational prawns if you want, and enjoy. The common ground of all of these endings is Heolostor. Heolostor is the primordial Nightlord, and is at the heart of not only just every single ending, but also everything to do with Nightreign. A great example being that in a lot of the Nightlord boss battles, if you look into the horizon, into the same realm where we eventually fight Heolostor, you'll notice a big eye in the background. Not to mention that in the last expedition, if you look up at the sky, you'll notice eyes in the sky. He is constantly watching and he is so important to the lore. Inside of base game Elden Ring, we get a lot of information and references to the Nox wanting to create a Lord of Night. And well, suffice to say, inside the Nightreign timeline, they succeeded. They birthed a Nightlord. Inside of Recluse's quest, we learn that she is in fact the mother of the Nightlord. We are told this on multiple occasions, one by the sorceress, which appears in Recluse's questline, and in the Recluse Ending. On the topic of Recluse's Ending, I want to talk about that, because it's very integral to the Nightlord story, considering they are mother and son. Upon defeating Heolostor, her very own son, you awake in the Round Table Hold, in the same realm as the Nightlord that you defeated. She walks in, and she finds a baby Nightlord. Heolostor glows a bright silver. You might be tricked into thinking that this is going into the past, or perhaps even the future. The most likely answer is in fact that this is the present. This ending happens right after you defeat the Nightlord. I think it's most likely that after the confrontation and the body was slain, the godly primordial essence of the Nightlord reacted. This is his realm. I believe with the last living life force that he possessed, he transformed what he had into the body of a baby, able to feel the warmth of a mother's love that he once felt. For inside of Recluse's questline, when we talk to the sorceress, she talks about the love that Recluse had for their knight. Both Recluse and Heolostor are victims of culture and circumstance, which led them to the lives they currently have. Something I'm sure you're very interested in is how did the Nightlord come to be, apart from obviously being birthed. The Nox are descendants of the Newman, the same race that Marika hails from. These Newman and Nox are also related to the Shaman, which possess divine capabilities as seen with the jars inside the shadow of the Erd Tree. Every single Empyrean, every single god, every single entity that possessed these divine capabilities to do with gods and outer gods seems to hail from this family. And just like the Newman, the Nox, being of this family, were entitled to these powers. This can be seen where we see the sorceress inside of Recluse's questline recall to Recluse how Heolostor consumed her as an infant. This sorceress became one with the Nightlord, became one with Heolostor. We see inside the boss battle that Heolostor has multiple arms. I believe this is a result of this fusion, the result of consuming this woman. The whole two souls in one body is not a foreign concept. For example, Marika and Radagon, they are one in the same. The interesting part about this though, is what the sorceress says. She says that it's only now she has free will given to her by the Nightlord. And yet Marika and Radagon seem to have autonomy over their own individual actions. They seem to have their own individual motives and their own individual ideals. Yet as an infant, he seems to have stripped this away from this sorceress, leaving her as a husk that he uses within his own body. I believe this is seen on the left side. You'll notice this is the only arm that does not have armour on. It could just be me, but it feels very out of place. If you want even more further proof of this, when the sorceress gets brought back to life, in whatever strange way the Nightlord does, well, she's clutching at her left arm. The very same arm which is used in battle by the Nightlord. I believe this is not a coincidence and is instead very intentional. They may be different skin colours, yes, but as we've seen with Rykard, if you consume the body and then the soul sort of fuses with the original shaman body, it does change the properties. And so once this limb is available to Heolostor, it would change to his normal Noxian colours. I've seen this theory floating around since Nightreign release, hell, since all the trophies got leaked, that the sword is actually the Moonlight Greatsword that is given to us by Ranni, that this is the Tarnished. It's not. Inside of Elden Ring, the Moonlight Greatswords are given to the husbands or wives of people of the Carian household. It's a marriage gift. We get one in Ranni's quest, and Radagon gets one from Rennala. This actually makes a lot more sense than it seems. The Nox were clever. We learn from the Nightlord's Great Rune that they planned tirelessly in the shadows to fulfill this plan. What better way than to align with a family who is also associated with the stars, with the night. And so it would make perfect sense that when Heolostor became of age, he would marry into the Carian household. His marriage gift being this Moonlight Greatsword we see in his hand. Considering Ranni's Moonlight Greatsword is the same colour as a dark moon that we see in her ending, I think it's most likely these Moonlight Greatswords represent not only the Carian family, but also their connection to the celestial bodies. Now I know, the colour of the Moonlight Greatsword is Gloam. Do I think this has anything to do with the Gloamite Queen? No, I don't think so. I think it's genuinely just the colour of the celestial body that this certain Carian is contracted to. Colours are no doubt important to Elden Ring, but I think this is just a coincidence. For example, you've got the Blue Dancer and the Carians. They're both represented by blue, doesn't mean they're connected. On the topic of this Gloam colour, you'll notice the dagger in his left hand actually has a Gloam brooch upon the hilt. This might seem insignificant, but I truly believe this is showing that Heolostor truly did care about his Carian bride, even if it was an arranged marriage. Because that's what it most likely was, considering the alliance that would be gained to the Nox and the Carians. If you need further proof that this is the case, on the night of the Black Knives, Ranni used Black Knife assassins hailing from the Eternal City. By duty and marriage, the Nox would have a responsibility to help their kin, the Carians, or more specifically Ranni, in her endeavours in the Night of the Black Knives. And yes, regardless of the timeline split, this alliance would be there inside a base game Elden Ring, considering the Nox have been planning this for a long time. They obviously did not succeed inside of Elden Ring base game, but that does not mean the foundation was not there, and is not present when we play the game. I mean, a prime example of this is Ranni. The Nox fail in the base game timeline, and yet Ranni takes up the mantle. Doesn't it sound a bit similar? Ranni talks about a 1,000-year voyage under the wisdom of the moon. The Nightlord's reign takes place at night. It sounds very similar, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ranni is in fact taking up the mantle of the long-dead Nox. If you think Heolostor is crazy now, wait till you hear what I'm about to say. Heolostor is in possession of a secret great rune. The base is a part of the Elden Ring and all its depictions, and yet the top half is circular and is not seen on any depictions of the Elden Ring. And yet he's specifically told to us inside the item description that this is a great rune. It's really funny because we can actually see the great rune in the pose Marika does. It's almost uncanny when you actually look at it, but Marika is posed in the final boss fight exactly how this rune looks, which shows the foreshadowing that exists within Elden Ring towards Nightreign. There's two reasons why I believe Marika kept the Night Rune hidden. Firstly, it is incredibly powerful. The presence of the Night Rune in Heolostor's hand leads to unprecedented death and leads to the Age of Night. With this single rune, the Nox are able to topple a dynasty, topple the very gods themselves. And I believe this was known by Marika, for if you actually look at the position of this rune upon the Elden Ring, it sits at the very most top point of the Elden Ring. possibly suggesting the power it possesses. The second reason why I believe she removed it and knew it was bad news was because of the past of Elden Ring's world, that being Dark Souls. If you actually look, this great rune bears an uncanny similarity to the dark sign that we see hovering in the sky of Dark Souls 3. Inside of Dark Souls 3, it heralds a new age of either fire or dark. The dark sign of man was branded upon the very earth by Gwyn. It was used to force the curse of the undead upon man. The main difference between the sign inside of Dark Souls and in Elden Ring is the fire that is present upon the dark sign in Dark Souls is missing inside of Nightreign. I believe that considering so much time has passed, and perhaps so many dark ages have passed, that the fire of Gwyn's power has withered away. Or more accurately, the curse. And what is left behind is the acute power of the Lord of Sunlight. If of course that sunlight was devoid of light and becomes night. And what does Heolostor do when he attains the Nightlord's rune? Well, none other than bring forth night. Something that is the exact opposite of Gwyn's sunlight. What I've talked about is not a coincidence, for if you in fact look at the description, it talks about the Nox gazing upon the lie of the Erd Tree. The Erd Tree was created by the Greater Will, and it is said that the great falling star of the Elden Beast fell upon the land, and with it came the Elden Ring. And yet the dark sign exists within the Elden Ring, secretly tucked away. That doesn't make much sense. How would it be already on the land, but also come from the stars? It's genuinely just not possible. When people talk about the Erd Tree, they also talk about the Golden Order. The Golden Order which houses the Elden Ring. As I said previously, the Nightlord's rune talks about the lie of the Erd Tree, and the fact the Nox gazed into it and were punished. I believe the Erd Tree's lie is in fact the Elden Ring's lie. The lie that is told to the populace. I don't believe the Elden Ring came down on an Elden Beast. I don't doubt the star crashed down and the Elden Beast came about, but I don't believe the Elden Ring came with it. I believe the Elden Ring is something that is integral to the land and has been here a long time, long before the Golden Order and long after. The Nightlord's rune also talks about Nox's realisation. The realisation the only way to win is to cheat a god. This is the only mention we get of this, but we can infer. Inside of base game Elden Ring, we are told of high treason committed by the Nox. This is told to us in the Fingerslayer Blade. Now, this Fingerslaying Blade is said to be proof of this. The Fingerslaying Blade is capable of harming those of the Greater Will, and those associated with it, meaning it would be the perfect opportunity to carve out a great rune, to remove what they believe is rightfully theirs. Considering Matea's connection to the Greater Will, the massive gash on her stomach, and she's the mother of fingers, I think it makes a lot of sense that she would be the one to hold the Night Rune for Marika. Further proof of the influence of the Night Rune is Matea's boss arena. It's blue. What is the rain inside of Nightreign? It's also blue. I know it's a different shade, but perhaps the reason it's a different shade is different people holding it have different effects upon the rune. If you want further proof, look no further than Matea's tail. This tail actually holds a perfect representation of this great rune. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. I believe the long-standing presence of this great rune in Matea's hand has shaped her body towards it. Inside of Nightreign, I believe they succeeded in ripping out the great rune. I don't actually think they succeeded in Elden Ring's Shadow of the Erd Tree though. Simply because, well, we don't see a Nightlord. It seems to be a very integral part of what allows the Nightlord Heolostor his power. It wouldn't really make much sense for it to have succeeded. Something you're rightfully probably asking, well, if it's not being taken in Shadow of the Erd Tree, why don't we get it dropped for us by Matea? Well, at the end of Matea's boss fight, yes, we get runes, but she disappears. We don't see her body. She disappears into a microcosm and disappears without a trace. Yes, we get her remembrance, but the rune is gone. Where she went, fuck knows. Heolostor is one of the most tragic characters inside of Elden Ring. He's groomed from an early age, born for a simple purpose, to overthrow a dynasty. he's never really had much of a choice, and it's truly sad. I think it's very important to realise when you're looking and playing against Heolostor that he is the victim. Now that we've talked about Heolostor and about Recluse's ending and their stories, it's now time to talk about more of the endings, starting with Wylders. Wylders Ending is probably one of my favourite ones, simply because it's absolutely heart-wrenching. Wylder is from a long-distant clan, and is the older brother of Duchess. Duchess is chained to the Round Table Hold. She is chained to this realm of night. The Round Table Hold exists within the realm of the Nightlord, and so when the Nightlord dies, so does Duchess, so does the Round Table Hold. Throughout Wylder's quest line, we battle with the identity and the memories that are popping up. We remember the love of a sibling, and we come to a decision that no matter the atrocities of the night, nothing is worth losing his sister. Nothing is worth her death. And so we attain a larval tear, which we use once we defeat the Nightlord. As Heolostor kneels upon the floor, Wylder holds the larval tear to his chest and is reborn into the body of Heolostor. Wylder becomes the new Nightlord, prolonging the night, but also prolonging the life of his dear sister. Moral ambiguity is something that is very common inside of FromSoftware's games, and this is no exception. It's a really beautiful ending that shows the love between siblings, and the things they do to protect each other, even at the cost of everything and everyone. Upon completing Ironeye's quest, upon talking to the traitor, we find out a truth about the Fellowship, about Ironeye's group. The Fellowship are a group of those who live in death. This fact is unknown to Ironeye and only finds out about it from this traitor. Towards the end of the quest, we get a letter from Isolde. His blood-soaked letter tells us a revelation he had, that no matter what, once their role has been played, they will be disposed of. They are those who live in death. They were hunted for ages in the time of the Erd Tree, and this is no exception. Once the Erd Tree is returned, no doubt they will return to being hunted. The blood-soaked letter, which is most likely the last letter this person will ever write to anyone, imparts this dream upon Ironeye, and when you get to the final cutscene, after you defeated the Nightlord, you get a choice. Sitting down on the floor is someone wearing the attire of the Golden Capital. Most likely this is one of the last remaining descendants of the Golden lineage. Further proof of this is the fact we offer the Great Rune to this person. They have a claim to this power, and I do believe this is why we give them this Great Rune. But back onto the topic of Ironeye. In his ending, we do not give them the rune. Instead, we slit their throat and let their blood spray everywhere. This ending seems to put out any hope of ending the night. It is an eternal night, and Ironeye's choice condemns the world to it. It is no doubt a selfish act, and an act that will lead to untold suffering, but you can still understand why he did this. His kind, those who live in death, have been persecuted and hunted and slaughtered for eons. Faced with the knowledge that your kind, once you've played every role in protecting the world, will be slaughtered once more, would you simply sit back and allow it to happen, or would you do something to prevent it? When you put it like that, it makes a lot of sense why Ironeye did this. Those are the unique endings for the certain Nightfarers, but one is in common, one that no matter what Nightfarer you use, you will get. You give this great rune of the night to this figure, which, as we talked about earlier, is most likely a scion of the Golden Order, and your body becomes ethereal, your body becomes light. These streaks of light spread all throughout the land, as we see in the ending, and yet we can only get proper context upon the true ending. If before you defeat Heolostor, you complete a Nightfarer's questline and wear their remembrance armour, you'll witness the true secret ending of Nightreign. This ending entails you looking upon the revitalised lands between, and it's all calm until you see a pile of roots shifting. This pile of roots stands up, and it is in fact one of the giant titans we see walking around the edges of the map. And yet only one stands up. It looks at the Erd Tree almost in longing before walking away into the horizon across the sea. It's a very strange scene considering there were so many giants before. There were dozens of them, they were everywhere, and yet in this cutscene there is only one. This is not a titan, not the titans we see walking around between day 1 and day 3. No, this is us. The Great Room, which represents night and also bears a striking similarity to the Dark Sign, is represented by an endless cycle of undeath. Although it is not undeath, I believe there is another cycle at play here. I find it way too much of a coincidence that there are giants that look very similar to the titans that walk around Elden Ring Nightrein's world, actually inside base game Elden Ring. You've probably seen them, they're in Caelid, they're in the mountaintop of the giants, and they share an uncanny similarity to these giants. In Dusk you can actually get a better look at these titans, and they even share the same teeth as the ones that are located in the mountaintop of the giants. The only difference being their bodies have been turned to wood, their bones long since left behind. The giants in base game Elden Ring were wiped out without a trace. Nothing in the game brings any sort of mention to them or what they might be. They were systematically and methodically annihilated, but how and why? The Divine Towers were most likely built by these giants. Considering the size and the lack of technology, it looks very much likely that they were the ones who were big enough to build this. This is all without mentioning all the Fell God signs on the Divine Towers, which are linked heavily to giants. The interesting part of the Divine Towers actually comes from the debris which is found climbing up the sides. The middle of Elden Ring's map is completely annihilated. If you look at it closely, it's uneven. It looks like a meteor has struck down into the middle. Debris from this meteor can be seen climbing up the Divine Towers. It is unknown how the events exactly transpired, but I believe these giants died in a grand fight. A grand fight which led them to acquiring the Nightreign, which they then used to, well, end the night. Just as we did. In the base cutscene with no follow-up, we are glowing gold, we are glowing bright, we are brimming with energy. And yet the next shot shows the world of the lands between brimming with light. But the husk of dark roots, the giant, is dark, it's devoid of energy. I believe our light, our energy has been used to bring life back into the Erdtree, back into the lands between. And after this process is done, the empty husks that were from the giants were free to be used, and so we now inhabit them. A being devoid of light. We are a sacrifice for the new age. I truly do believe this is us, and I believe there was a previous night before Heolostor, and that the Golden Order is hiding that fact, and that this is the very secret that led to the Nox rebelling against the Golden Order, and seeking a way to follow in the footsteps of a person that we do not know. I mean, don't you think it's a bit strange they went down this path in the first place? Someone must have pushed them down it. It's too specific for them to have just come up by themselves. Not to mention, how on earth do they even find out this secret? I believe this is something that has happened in the past, and someone in the shadows is telling them how to do it. Going back onto the shadowy figures, I really do believe that once upon a time they sacrificed their life to bring life back to the lands between. I believe their essence is drained and they are simply waiting for someone to come along and do what they did an age ago. I believe that we, the player character, succeeded that legacy and brought back the world from the brink, just like they did an age ago. Only now we're a husk, and we are forced to walk the earth forevermore in this rooted body. If you need further proof that this is in fact us, look no further than the fact there is a lot of body transfer inside of Nightreign. For example, using the power of a larval tear, Wylder is reborn into the body of the Nightlord. If you look closely enough at his ending, you can actually see the body that's walking in the horizon isn't actually Wylder's body, it's Heolostor's. Heolostor's body that has been robbed by Wylder to become him. It's most likely the same process befell our character, the Nightfarer you play when you get this true secret ending. The difference being we are using the power of this blinding light to be able to switch forms and not through a larval tear. And an age later, when this cycle has most likely repeated itself, when a new night has overcome the lands between, a new character will come along and repel the night, and we will get the rest we rightfully deserve, just like the shadowy figures that disappear upon the true ending, leaving only one that we inhabit, and so will so many others in the future. On the topic of the Titans again, I think it's very likely that they were the first of the night. For if their body is being constantly used in this process, kind of suggests that they were the first in the cycle. Which would further explain why no information is known about them, considering it was so long ago. Sadly everyone, that is the end of the video. If you did enjoy, please consider leaving a like and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel and it lets me know you're enjoying this style of content. Did I miss anything in this video? If I did, drop it in a comment down below. The same goes for constructive criticism, as believe it or not, I genuinely want to improve these videos for you all because that's the most important thing to me. Anyway, I'm not going to ramble on anymore. I really hope you did enjoy this final boss and all endings explained video. And yeah, please friends, don't you dare go hollow, and may you find your worth in the waking world. See you in the next one, and goodbye.